I was 7 months pregnant, standing in my mother-in-law's kitchen, when she looked at my stomach and said the word that I would carry with me for the next 2 years. Burden. Not shouted, not even unkind, exactly. Said the way you'd mention the weather. A fact she was simply stating out loud for everyone's benefit. My name is Renata, and I want to tell you what happened after that word, and what it cost the people who said it. I should back up. My husband Theo and I had been married 3 years when we found out I was pregnant. It wasn't planned exactly, but it wasn't a shock either. We'd talked about starting a family, agreed we'd try, sometime soon. And sometime soon had simply arrived a little earlier than the spreadsheet in Theo's head had accounted for. 2 weeks after we told his parents, Theo lost his job. A round of layoffs at the logistics company he'd worked at for 6 years, no warning, no severance beyond 2 weeks' pay. He was good at his job. It wasn't performance. It was a spreadsheet decision made by someone in another state who'd never met him. We were scared, obviously, but we weren't panicking. I still had my job as a paralegal. We had 4 months of savings. Theo had 2 decades of work experience and a good reputation in his industry. This was a setback, not a catastrophe. His parents did not see it that way. Marguerite and Desmond had opinions about everything, but they'd never been shy about sharing them regarding Theo specifically. He was their only son, and somewhere along the way, their love for him had curdled into something closer to management. They had ideas about his career, his finances, his choices, and they delivered those ideas whether or not anyone asked for them. We told them about the layoff on a Sunday dinner. I remember exactly where I was sitting, across from Marguerite, my hand resting on the curve of my stomach the way you do without thinking about it once you're far enough along. Desmond set down his fork first. "This is exactly why we said you should have waited," he said, not looking at me, looking at Theo. "A baby right now with no job, that's not planning, that's recklessness." "We'll be fine," Theo said. "I've got interviews lined up already." "It's not about whether you'll be fine eventually," Marguerite said. "It's about right now. You're bringing a baby into instability. That's not fair to the child." I sat very still, my hand still resting on my stomach, feeling something in me go quiet and cold. "She's not even born yet," I said, "and you're already talking about her like a mistake." Marguerite looked at me then, really looked. The way you look at someone you've decided doesn't quite understand the conversation they're in. "I'm not saying it to be cruel, Renata," she said. "I'm being realistic. A baby is a lot even in perfect circumstances. Right now, with no income, she's going to be a burden on both of you. That's just the truth." The word sat in the middle of the table like something spilled. Nobody rushed to clean it up. Theo, to his credit, did say something. "Mom, don't call my daughter that." But it came out quieter than I needed it to, softer than the moment deserved, and Marguerite waved it off like he was being sensitive about nothing. "You know what I mean," she said. I did know what she meant. That was the problem. I won't walk you through every dinner after that one, because there were more, and they all had a version of the same undertone. Concerned questions about the nursery budget delivered like accusations. Comments about whether I really needed to take my full maternity leave. A gift at my baby shower, the only one Marguerite gave, that was a set of hand-me-down clothes from a cousin's baby, with the tag still showing the return policy had expired, like even the gift was hedging its bets on whether this baby was really going to be worth the investment. Theo found a new job 6 weeks before our daughter was born. Better pay than his last one, actually, the kind of thing that happens more often than people expect once they stop panicking and start looking properly. We were fine. We had been fine the entire time, in the way most families are fine through hard stretches, which is to say, tight, careful, and ultimately okay. Nobody in his family ever acknowledged that they'd been wrong about the timing. What they acknowledged when Ren was born was polite. A card. A brief hospital visit where Marguerite held her for exactly 4 minutes before saying she didn't want to overwhelm her. I want to tell you clearly, nobody in that family did anything violent or dramatic. Nobody screamed. Nobody threw us out into the street. What they did was smaller, and in some ways, harder to point to a low, steady current of making it clear that our daughter had been a poorly timed complication rather than a person they were excited to know. Invitations to family things got vaguer. "We'll let you know if it works with Wren's schedule" became a kind of shorthand for "we didn't really plan around her." Holidays happened at their house, at times that never quite lined up with a toddler's nap schedule, and when we mentioned that, Marguerite would sigh in a way that suggested we were the ones being difficult. I stopped pushing after a while, not out of anger exactly, more out of a growing, quiet clarity. I had a daughter who deserved to be wanted, fully, without qualification, by the people around her. If Theo's parents weren't capable of that, I wasn't going to spend my limited energy convincing them otherwise. I redirected that energy toward the people who did want her, my own mother, who flew in twice that first year just to hold her while I slept. Theo's college roommate and his wife, who became honorary aunt and uncle within a month. A small, chosen circle who never once used the word burden. We built a good life. Theo's new job turned into a promotion 18 months in. I went part-time at the firm and picked up freelance contract review work on the side, which paid surprisingly well and let me be home most afternoons. Wren turned into exactly the kind of toddler people warn you about and don't warn you about in equal measure: fast, funny, stubborn, utterly certain that the dog belonged to her personally. Marguerite and Desmond saw her 4 times in her first year. Each visit was short, careful, a little formal. They sent a gift at Christmas, appropriate, generic, the kind of gift you buy for a child you don't actually know. I stopped expecting more than that. It stopped hurting in the specific way it used to and became just a fact about our family, the way you'd note that a particular relative lives far away or doesn't call much. The shift happened slowly, and then all at once, the way these things usually do. It started with Theo's cousin's wedding, this past spring. Extended family, the kind of event where you see relatives you haven't seen in years. Wren was 2 by then, in a little yellow dress, holding my hand and narrating everything she saw in the specific, confident way 2-year-olds do. "Flower, big flower, my flower now." People kept stopping us. Cousins, aunts, family friends, leaning down to talk to her, laughing at whatever she said, telling us how beautiful she was, how sharp, how funny. I watched Marguerite watch this happen from across the reception hall, watched her watch person after person light up around a child she'd spent 2 years treating like an inconvenience she was managing from a polite distance. She came over eventually, crouched down in front of Wren, the way she should have been doing for 2 years. "Hello there," she said. "Do you remember me? I'm your grandmother." Wren looked at her with the flat, honest assessment only small children are capable of, and said, "No," and turned back to the flower she was holding. I didn't correct her. I didn't fill the silence to make it more comfortable for Marguerite. I just watched my mother-in-law's face do something complicated, standing there in front of a granddaughter who genuinely did not know who she was, because she genuinely hadn't been given the chance to. Desmond called Theo about 2 weeks after the wedding. I wasn't on the call, but Theo told me about it that night, sitting on the edge of our bed, looking a little stunned. "He wants to know if they can come over more," Theo said. "Like regularly," he said. Theo paused, choosing his words carefully. He said they realize they missed a lot and they don't want to miss more. I didn't say anything right away. I thought about a kitchen table 2.5 years ago, a word that had landed in the middle of it, and nobody rushing to clean it up. "What did you tell him?" I asked. "I told him I'd talk to you," Theo said, "because it's not really my decision anymore, it's yours and Wren's." I appreciated that more than I could easily say. Here's what I decided, and I want to be honest that it wasn't dramatic, wasn't a door slammed shut, wasn't a scene. I told Theo I was willing to let them try, slowly, on Wren's terms rather than theirs. Short visits. No overnight trips, not yet. No unsupervised time until Wren herself was comfortable with them, which, given that she currently didn't know who they were, was going to take a while. Marguerite didn't love that arrangement, I could tell. She wanted access restored the way you'd restore a subscription, immediately, fully, back to where it had been before the lapse. What she was being offered instead was a slow rebuild, the kind you have to actually earn, one Sunday afternoon at a time, one visit where you show up and get down on the floor and build blocks with a toddler who doesn't yet trust that you're going to stick around. They've come over 6 times now, over the past 2 months. Marguerite brings snacks Wren actually likes, which means she's been paying attention, asking me quiet questions about what Wren's into these days. Desmond built her a little wooden stool for the bathroom sink so she can reach to wash her hands, which is a small thing, but it's the first thing either of them has ever made for her rather than simply purchased. Last weekend, Wren ran to the door when they arrived and said, "Grandma Marguerite, Grandpa," without anyone prompting her. I watched Marguerite's face when that happened. I watched her have to look away for a second and collect herself before she answered. I'm not going to pretend I've forgotten the words she used 2.5 years ago. I haven't, and I don't think I need to pretend I have in order to let them build a relationship with my daughter now. Those are two separate things, forgiveness of the person and protection of the child, and I've learned you're allowed to hold both at once. What I will say is this: Wren was never a burden. She was a person who arrived a little earlier than some people's spreadsheets accounted for, and she turned out to be one of the best things that has ever happened to this entire family, including the parts of it that were slowest to realize it. They know that now. It took them 2 years, a wedding, and a toddler who didn't recognize her own grandmother to figure it out. But they know it now, and every Sunday they show up and get down on the floor and build something small out of wooden blocks is proof that they know it, not because they said the right words, but because they finally started doing the right things. If someone ever made you feel like your child, or you, were an inconvenience to their plans, I want you to know something. The people who see a burden usually just haven't yet seen what they're looking at. If this story found you tonight, tell me in the comments. Did anyone in your life ever make you feel like your child was a burden, and how did that story turn out? We share stories like this every day. If you don't want to miss the next one, go ahead and subscribe. There's always another story waiting.